All right, we welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here in 1130 The Tiger. That guy's Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton, and we are pleased to welcome in the head coach of the Aggies of UC Davis, the man, the myth, the legend, a man I'm pleased to refer to as friend. He is Dan Hawkins. Hawk, how are you, my brother?
Oh, man, music and sports. You guys are on it. I actually was thinking about you guys the other day because I heard a song, I think it was a friend of your guys. It was called Black and Blue. Or
yeah, Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
I was just going to say, Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Blue on Black. Hey. Yeah, Blue on Black.
There you go.
Actually, I went to high school with Kenny Wayne, Dan. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, he's a Shreveport native. His dad and Brando were actually big buddies. Longtime DJ known as Shotgun Ken Shepherd. And Timmy B were partners back in the day, DJing together on various stations around here and big buddies. So, yeah.
That is good stuff right there. I'm just telling you, like music and sports. I'm a little bummed we're not doing Zoom because, you know, me and Hey Boy, we'd be just getting the KISS thing just rolling.
Oh, you know he already had it ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. You knew he had it ready to roll at that point. So, yeah, we're not, we're still old school radio here, Dan. We're not, we're not quite yet up on the Zoom thing. We're, we still do phone calls around here and occasionally have in-studio guests. Hey, before we get off into some other topics, first of all, how's the family? How's your friends? How's everybody doing out there?
Yeah, we're all great. I told Roger, I think, when you read the news, I had people call me the other day. I heard school's canceled. I heard you're not having football. I'm like, well, no, just pump the brakes. Hold on here a second. So, yeah, we're all good. We're all healthy. We're actually kind of in a small SEC-ish type town here in Davis. It's a town of about 65,000 in between Sacramento and the Bay Area. So we kind of are in the country here a little bit, but we're doing good. We miss our guys, but everybody's healthy. We're just waiting for the light to kind of turn yellow and then hopefully green, and hopefully we'll get a little movement going in June here.
And that's the interesting thing, because this is what we talked about. We had Alicia Jessup, who's a sports law professor over at Pepperdine. And we were talking about the Cal State University system electing to not have students on campus for the fall semester. They've already made that decision, and I immediately texted you just to double check that you're in the University of California system. They're in the California State University system. But I'm curious, when you see something like that affects schools that are nearby and out in your area, does that give you some pause that maybe this is kind of the Rudy Gobert of college football, where once Rudy Gobert came down with COVID-19, the NBA shut down and then everything else followed suit? Does it concern you in a way that the Cal State University system saying we're going to go remote learning, no one's going to be in classes on campus in the fall, is maybe the first domino that falls and people start following them?
Yeah, I think you're always kind of concerned just about what the current trend is, whether it's up or down, and you're applauding the up and you're not too good about the down. Now, let me just say this, too. God bless all the people that have passed away, and I get it. We're not trying to endanger kids or people or all that. We're just trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. But, yeah, you want things to trend up for sure. Our good friends in the CSU system, I do believe they're going to try to figure out a way to play football, again, safely with parameters. So I think that's an option. But, yeah, you'd certainly have things rather trending up rather than down.
I'm also curious because especially in your conference, the Big Sky, that is a pretty spread out conference, within the West Coast, and you're up in Montana and all of those Idaho and all, Washington and whatnot. Is there some level of concern that there can be any sort of uniformity when it comes to, trying to enact things now? Because, California, the rumor is, I guess, that y'all are going 3 more months of sort of quarantine. But, maybe Idaho is ready to go or Montana is ready to go. What are the challenges that are faced when you have all of these states that are responding so differently to this thing?
Yeah, well, again, you're saying 3 more months. That's really Los Angeles.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that's part of why I want to have you on, is so you can help clarify this for us.
Yeah, it's really county by county, and we're we're quite a ways. You'd have to drive pretty fast and hard to get to L.A. in 6 hours from where I'm at. So they're a ways away, but it'll be county by county. And to your question, I don't think there's concern really. I know our conference, and I've talked to our conference commissioner, Tom Wistrel, who does a great job. Hey, don't be so concerned. Everybody's kind of have to do what they have to do. And if some people start earlier, hey, good for them. Good for them. But we can't hold everybody back. We got to let people go when they can go. And then if some people have to catch up, they have to catch up. And then, we'll see what happens with the schedule. And I have no idea. I keep telling people I believe there's going to be football. I really do. What that's going to look like, I don't know. Fans don't know. Will the schedule hold true? Don't know. Is there a rolling schedule? Possibility. Will you have to pick up some other people? Maybe you will. Maybe there'll be a situation where one state is limited about playing another state, so you've got to pick somebody up in your region. There could be all those things. So, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape is kind of my motto.
I love it. That's a great motto. Talking to Dan Hawkins, head coach at UC Davis. Hawk, so I guess you mentioned you've spoken to the commissioner of the Big Sky out there. What's sort of the hierarchy, I guess, when it comes to making these decisions? Is this the president of the university is making these calls? Is it the athletic director? Is it some combination of all of them and you? Kind of what's the hierarchy of decision-making as you look at the possibilities going forward?
Ultimately, it's going to be the health authorities in our county, which is Yolo County. It'll start with them. And then it'll go to our university. Now, we are in the University of California system, and I do think they would love to move together uniformly, but that we do not have to respond the same as, for instance, UCLA. We don't have to respond the same way based off the health numbers and the concerns. So it'll start with our local health officials and then translate down to our Chancellor, Gary May, to figure out, are we safe to start either conditioning or practice or school, and what will school look like? And then, of course, we're very fortunate. One of our team, Dr. Jeremiah Ray, is actually on the National COVID kind of committee, so he's in on the know on all of this stuff. So you're right, it is a little bit of a joint because you've obviously got the NC2A weighing in, you've got your conference weighing in, then you've got your state, and you've got your county, and there's a number of people that have to sit at that table. But ultimately, it's going to be the health officials in our county. You mentioned all of the different people that weigh in. Then how tough is it to have contingency plans? And how many contingency plans have you burned through at this point, trying to figure out, okay, if this happens, we do this. If that happens, we do that. Is it just overwhelming trying to figure out what the next step might be when there's so much unknown? Truthfully, it's fun. It's fun. It's intellectually stimulating. It keeps you on your toes. It's like you're running no-huddle offense, and you're right in the thick of it, and you got to adapt on the fly. And so we're just trying to tell our players to focus on what they can control. They're in school now. They can work out however they can work out, body weight workouts, or if they have weights, to do what they can do and then be ready. And then when they're ready, just be ready to adapt and roll, because practice surely will look different. Travel will probably look different. Games will look different. There could be a whole bunch, but that's life as well. So just stay flexible, and we do have a bunch of contingencies. And, hey, we'd love it all to be normal all the time, but this is kind of what makes it fun, and it'll be nice to see who can be the most agile and nimble and react to whatever. And it may not be a monthly situation. It might be a weekly situation, because you might say, hey, this team we're going to play is infected. They can't play. So now maybe we got to call somebody, Cal or Fresno or somebody, say, hey, you want to play? You guys want to drive up and play? And maybe that happens. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's, to me, sort of the interesting thing, Dan, and as we've discussed this, and I've look, as you know me, Dan, we've done several shows together. I'm kind of like you. I have a lot of varied interests. I'm not necessarily all sports all the time. As a matter of fact, the whole first hour was telling terrible jokes during the show today, and not a lot of sports talk. So this is actually not bad for me, but I've got to imagine it's also fun for you. You mentioned it's kind of intellectually stimulating, the subject matter itself is not fun, and obviously this is a pandemic and people are losing their lives, but you're a guy that is kind of a different dude in that respect, and so I can see where having something unusual happen is kind of fun outside of sort of the ordinary mundane that you normally would be dealing with.
Every generation, you guys know, you just got through talking about, your fathers and end up being grandfathers. Every generation has to respond to a number of situations, and we don't always like that, and it's not always fun, and in many cases it's tragic. But you can go all the way back to the Spanish flu, and my dad dealt with the polio epidemic rolling through, and so it's incumbent upon us to adapt and adjust and roll and reinvent ourselves, and we all have to do that. And that's the nature of our species, and that's the challenge that we're faced with right now. And sometimes it's war, sometimes it's disease, sometimes it's a depression, a severe depression people have had to live through before and maybe again. But you adapt and roll, and you got to look at it as that's part of the challenge. And we can sit around and say what should be or could be or ought to be or what was. Well, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It matters what happens right now and how we adapt to it and how we adjust to it. And I think all of us as a society and sports, we have to be able to do that as well. And the better we adapt to that, the more successful we'll be in the recovery.
Talking to Dan Hawkins, head coach at UC Davis, former Boise St Colorado head coach. Also, at one point, I'd forgotten you coached the national team at one point, Hawk. That I remember we chatted about that a bit, but I kind of slipped my mind. I'm sort of curious as you go along through this. Do you have? I know this is kind of the cliche question that most of the coaches are getting asked, but I'll ask you since you're my coach right here. Do you have a timetable in terms of, hey, I need this amount of time to get ready for the season? Is it a month? Is it 6 weeks? Is it, hey, we can do it 2 weeks and we're ready to roll? Is there a set amount of time that you must have, a minimum amount of time that you must have to be ready for the season?
Well, you just mentioned it. When we coached the national team, we had 8 days to get ready, and then we played 4 games. We played 4 games in 10 days.
Oh.
That's right, 4 games in 10 days. And I've seen it done a lot of different ways. I've coached all over Europe, and obviously you coach in Canada, and you have midweek games. I was at Boise when we first kind of started the Thursday night experiments, and we had to adapt and adjust to that. And so to me, that's part of it. And going back to your original question, I don't know that there is. I know when I was a D3 coach, and you guys know back in the old days, you showed up in the summer and you got ready to play.
Yeah.
And again, you have to handle things differently. You do, for sure. And we will obviously make sure that we're doing it in a healthy, safe manner for our players. You're going to have some guys come back, and they're going to be full-on ready to go, in great shape. We put them through the FMS. We put them through a few tests, and we kind of see where they're at. And, yeah, they're good, and they can handle a certain amount of rigor. Now, other guys, they may not be ready, and those guys have to be eased into it a little bit more. I think most coaches would tell you in modern-day football, really, you need about a really good solid 2 weeks to kind of get game ready. Now, sometimes you're figuring out depth charts and can the young guys play and people who fit in there. But, most guys will kind of start off kind of slow. Then you get 2 really hard weeks, and then you kind of slack off and get ready. I say slack off. You quit banging, and you get ready for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can adapt and adjust. And, again, you want to measure where your guys are physically, cardiovascularly, and strength-wise, and you do that, and some will be behind. And those guys, you nurture those guys on a little bit more. The other guys that come in ready to go, well, they can get going. Again, that happened in the old days when you showed up for practice. If guys were in shape and they were ready to go, they were practicing, and some guy was over there on an ice bag on his hamstring, and he wasn't making much progress in the depth chart.
Yeah, and we actually have seen, basically as you've coached over your coaching life, we have seen the prevalence of summer workouts become so much bigger.
Yep.
Now you hear coaches bragging, hey, we had 95, 98, 99% summer attendance, guys staying in and working out. So in some regards, I guess, today's players will have a bit of a leg up in the fact that they're used to practicing year-round as opposed to back in the day when, hey, once spring ball was over, you took the summer off. Maybe you worked out a little bit at home, but like you mentioned, you got in shape during training camp. You weren't already necessarily in shape coming into training camp.
And there might be in this thing, Patrick, there might be a pearl of wisdom. And I know the big trend here over the last couple of years has been about recovery. It's been about sleep. It's about hydration. It's about appropriate amount of time off. And we all might find a little bit of a pearl of wisdom of seeing that maybe just backing off a little bit and letting these guys' bodies come back around is a great thing, for them mentally and physically. But there's always a pearl of wisdom in every situation. We just got to look for it.
Do you think there will be some lasting change moving forward from this, whether it's the way guys practice, maybe the way they meet, with the prevalence of Zoom meeting now taking such having such a big effect, maybe the way that coaches, who are used to going in and being in the office, 20 hours a day and not seeing their family and kids. Do you think maybe we'll see some of that change a little bit because of what went down this year?
I definitely do, and I think our whole society will. I know even talking to some business people, they're thinking, well, do we need to rent out this building all the time? Can we just come in 2 days a week? And do we need to be in here every day? But I think we'll rethink a lot of things, and some of it will be better. And I know even talking to a lot of coaches this spring, they were saying, well, why aren't we doing more of this normally? I mean, why do we have to be in here all day long, every day in the spring? So it'll be a little bit of a common sense. And then just health-related matters and how we adapt and adjust, I think that's going to change. But no doubt it'll have a lasting effect. And so many of you guys have seen a lot of changes happen in football, and over time you sort of forget when those happen. But we're all going to look back to 2020 and go, oh, yeah, once that happened, that changed how our business worked, how radio worked, how sports worked. There'll be a lot of lasting effects.
Yeah, I love the meme. One thing we'll learn from this is just how many meetings could actually have been emails. That's,
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, there's wisdom. There's wisdom in all of them. Hey, there's no doubt we miss the face-to-face. We miss the human interaction, and that's why you coach. And I miss our players, and I miss our staff, and getting tired of seeing them in a little box on the computer.
Yeah, and by the way, if you ever you can do like the one kid at with his school who changed his name from whatever, Patrick or Dan or whatever, to Reconnecting, and then claimed he had had computer problems, and that's why he couldn't take part in the class that day. Pretty genius. I'm just saying, if you ever get tired of those guys, seeing them in a box, you want to take a day off, maybe change your name from Dan to Reconnecting and tell them you're having some computer problems. So just a thought.
Was that Hey Boy? Did he get that going?
Oh, yeah, like Rogers knows how to operate a computer or a Zoom meeting. I literally just got this guy texting here about a couple of years ago now. So we're not getting any further than that, Dan.
That's okay. He's rooted in tradition. You got to love that.
No, as he says, he's now 56. His birthday was a couple of days ago, and he likes to say he doesn't live his life, so he doesn't need to learn new things. He doesn't live his life. That's and actually, when I write his biography, Hawk, it's going to be I Done Lived My Life, the Rogers Hampton story. That's what we're going to call it.
I'll be on it.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to interview you for it, no doubt about it. Hawk, man, it's so good to catch up with you, brother. Let's, look, if you need a fresh face for any of your Zoom meetings for your staff, just holler at me. I'll jump on there and do some bits and, teach them, tell them about barbecue or something. You just let me know. I'll come in and be a guest speaker for your guys and liven the building up for you a little bit. But, brother, it's great to catch up with you. Y'all stay safe out there. Please be careful. And looking forward to catching up with you down the road, man.
All right, man. Great to chat with you guys. Miss you guys. Peace.
Dan Hawkins, UC Davis head coach, one of the best.